Hello there, this is Aaron Gorka. I'm here to do a Cochrane Supply Smart Building Seminar on the Tracker Suite software. My name is Aaron Gorka and I'm from Ant Technologies. Today we'll cover Service and Project Tracker. I'm doing this kind of live right now, just like it would be a real live demo. I find it's easier to do it that way and wing it and have some fun. I'm pretending that there's an audience. I know there won't be questions, but this is the way to do it, I feel like. So, we're going to set the stage. I'll introduce myself, answering the question, who's this guy? I'll tell you about the ant colony, who's using ant and why they are. Then we'll jump right into a demo. I'll do the value calculator. This shows you as a contractor and a distributor, if you're going to watch, why and how much money you're missing out by not using the software. Ultimately, the call to action is to join the colony, give me a call, and we'll start our business together. So about 1 hour, informal, informational. Maybe I'll pause throughout it to give you a second, or maybe that's something you should do as you're watching it. Understand that this is a cost-effective solution. Ultimately, what we're showing you is worth $490 per user per year. There's a one-time training fee. You can outsource your setup to me and to Ant. That's a separate fee as well. Ultimately, this will be an annual reoccurring engagement where we become friends, right? You got to endeavor into a new software with a team, and Ant is a great team to work with. I'm going to show you that as we go. Me. Ultimately, I did business school. I grew up in this industry. My dad started Aeron HVAC and Control when I was 3 years old in 1993. So I grew up basically carrying his tools, going out to service calls with him after soccer class, or it could have been anything in that animal. You'll hear me on Control Trends as a podcast host and field reporter through Next Generation Innovation, and of course Control Trends. Shout out to Ken and Eric for getting me into that and making sure, as well as Brent Burrows from Intech, a user of Ant, and my co-host. Ultimately, I would consider probably the easiest way to put it is that I'm the leader of the Ant colony. The Ant colony are HVAC and Control distributors and contractors across North America into the United Kingdom as well as Uruguay. About the colony. Overall, this is a group of like-minded HVAC and Control contractors, typically 2 to 35 trucks, employees. The largest contractor is 65 users, employees. That is our core business. Consider us a very successful, very aggressive, and very organized control contractor in Toronto, Canada. We're always building it. It's always getting improved. We started it with our field techs in our HVAC service division. We built it for them to get them off of paper. Ultimately, we started our development about 8 years ago now, and it grew right from an R&D relationship with Brock University, where I was graduating from, and then government grants. Canada does a really good job in supporting small businesses and entrepreneurial startups grow. So we leveraged that and ultimately, tested it with our field techs. The main purpose, and I think what Ant does best, is get information from the field back to the office very, very effectively and very cleanly. From there, obviously, as a database-driven software, we started tracking equipment to sites and things along those lines, work orders to sites, customer portals, etc. So I'm sure by now you've had some time to read what's on the screen. I'm going to move on. Here's kind of a good example of our footprint. We're a preferred vendor for Controls Group North America, CGNA, which is essentially a network of all of the controls distributors in North America. Right? So you'd hear like the Strongquist, the Minvolco, the Cochrane Supply. Obviously, it's for Cochrane here, et cetera, et cetera. Well, here we go. Demo time. That was fast. Aaron Gorka back here. I hope you did take a break. I actually got a phone call right in the middle of that. Another sale, ding, ding, ding. Another colony member joining the colony. LJ Barton, our second contractor in the Toronto area. Woohoo! We did it. Okay, back to the demo time. And again, this is totally live, so I'm going to literally show you right from the beginning. Okay, so this is your landing page. Anybody that joins the colony gets their own, what we call branch. Tracker.anttechnologies.ca is our testing branch. AaronGroup.anttechnologies.ca, ljbarton.anttechnologies.ca, decal.anttechnologies.ca, BEMS, Synergy, Palmer, etc. This allows you to have all your own data, basically. First time you log in, sometimes it gives you a little bit of a slow piece. So take the page in. I got this audio backing track on and just skipped to a commercial, my bad. Anyway, take this page in. We built this as a quick link dashboard, as you can see on the left hand side. Basically anything you can do in the software is on the left. This generate work order, schedule service, search your work orders, search your sites, field quotes, priority service reports. This is built for a dispatcher view. You can type in any work order that you have, they'll all show up. Any search function you have in the software is going to show up in here. The more you type, the less results you get. Okay. Same thing with sites. Cochrane. There we go. So all the different types of contractors or sites that we have in here, and I use these as distributors. This is basically my sales tool. Okay, so you can catch a look of the people involved in it so far. Why don't we just jump right into this, and I go through the whole generate work order, schedule tech, tech does a service report. From there, I'll jump into the sites. This is going to take maybe 15 minutes or so. So strap in. Can push this button here, gets you to the same spot. I like to use control click. It's the same as right click, open up a new tab. This is, if you don't know this about computers, it's a great chance to learn. It makes your life much easier, so you don't have to go back and forth with things. So from here, I'm just going to grab into demos, service relationship. I guess this is a good chance to introduce that concept. A service relationship is the unique, we'll call it marriage, between a customer and a site. You could have one site with multiple clients, for example, right? All these sites or all these clients, multiple sites, right? Or one site with multiple clients as well. Okay, so you think a city or a region that has multiple locations within it. Work order numbers can be auto-generated. They can also be just copied and pasted depending on what type of work order system you use. Most of the colonies on some form of auto-generated work order. We have a pretty slick way of customizing this. Aaron, our core business, does not. We use Jonas as our accounting software, and because that's basically the dictator of things, and Ant does not do accounting, probably will never. We will integrate to QuickBooks, and we have integrated to QuickBooks already successfully. So customer calls, some too hot, help. Maybe they tell you AHU1 is down. Right? The more information you get, but point is, call comes up. Who's the customer? Who's the site? What's the reason for the service? Ultimately, if that client has a PO number that you want, to be recognized here, you can put that in as well. Upload any pictures or emails that the customer may have sent. If you're a BS contractor and somebody calls up and you want to get a screenshot of that automation system so that when you send text to the field, they can see at least what the scenario was. This is a great spot for it. Ultimately, I'm going to run through this really quickly again. We go demos, we pick our site, we say too hot, help. We scroll the bottom, we hit add a work order. So we're talking seconds to do this. Okay. This is going to take you to the schedule page now. It filters down because we just generated the work order just to the work order that we just generated. This is 130. I can drag and drop this anywhere in the week. I'm going to do Fridays today, and I'm going to add a technician. Remember, so the same thing, type one name, I get anybody with an A in it. I type Anti, IN, Ryan Moore, Anti support. So you can put multiple texts to multiple days, and that's how the search functions work. It's way better than a drop down. Drop downs is too long. Pick the day of the work, the estimated duration. Our core business doesn't really look at this. It's helpful, and probably the better way to do it cleanly is to have your estimated duration in there. You can also set your start time that you expect it to be at. It can help your team be organized, and you can set a default start time. Like, so say your guys start at 7 a.m. every day, set that as your default start time, and it will pop up every time like that. As usual, or as expected, you can put multiple days as well. Flip it through an estimated duration as well. So as soon as I click add, the technicians are going to be notified, instantly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually close this. I'm going to show it to you again. So we get this work order, we drag it, we drop it. We add a technician, maybe two. And we'll do multiple days as well. Say I'll book it for yesterday. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to leave these alone for this purpose, and I'm going to hit add. Boom. They're scheduled. I suspect I am going to get an email very shortly. Here it is, to say me as the technician has been assigned work. So it comes out like this. From a phone, I'm not sure this will actually go in. On some phones it works, some phones doesn't. This lets me save this in my calendar right away as a tech, if you're on a computer for sure. And it gives you basically what you need to know in order to do that work order. Number is big, what site you have to go to. It is fairly easy on a phone to select all on these and get it and copy paste it to Maps or open with Maps. Reason for the service, the time of call, and ultimately always call the office if you have any questions. Something I want to hit on here, on the please call the office. This software is not built. I don't think any software should be built to replace human communication. I think that's more important to guide human communication, to save 5, 10, 15 minutes all day, every day. We ran through an exercise in our core business that was purpose of, okay, if we save 10 minutes every day for every person, it worked out to like $750,000 at our charge out rate of $130 an hour. But yeah, the opportunity cost of unnecessary searching and unnecessary phone calls in communication when people can search things in the database and find it, $750K, boom. So that value calculator that I'm going to show you at the very end, honestly, your ROI, and you can talk to almost anybody in the colony on this, your ROI honestly is almost day one. I think that as a whole is the way she goes with like field quotes as well. One approved field quote is going to pay for this. Okay, $41 a day, no, $41 a month per person when you think about it that way. So I'm going to show you the tech view now. We've been assigned a technician. We generated a work order. We scheduled the tech. This is what the techs see. Okay, I'll give you a mobile example there, so you can see it's a big fat button, easy to get for the techs to see. An ad we're going to have very shortly is actually have the site name here as well. It's always a balance between how much information you put on the page, for scrolling and informational purposes. Ultimately, you can click here. Again, right click or control and click brings up a new tab. I'm going to open this up now, and this would give you everything to do with the work order. Okay, you can see which site you're going to. You can edit the work order, export service report, start a service report. If you have QuickBooks enabled on here, you can create your invoices directly from here as well. It just pushes it into there and creates a line item. I hate the QuickBooks integration. It's very challenging. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And honestly, it is about 2 to maybe 5% of the value of the software. The reason I had to invest in creating the QuickBooks integration was because we get blockers. Well, if it doesn't integrate to QuickBooks, we're not interested. That's not the right view on it. This is going to get you to 95% ready to invoice. It's going to get your field information back to you. You're not going to have to retype things if you, from the paper to the invoice if you're already on paper. So back to tech view, we can start a service report here. I'm going to wait on that for now. Again, big fat buttons for fingers in the field. You can also view all your work orders from here as a tech. Same functionality as the quick link dashboard. Search up. There we go. Here's the work order we have right now, and you can get to them from there. Same thing with field quotes. We have a timesheet function. I'll cover that later. This will hyperlink you to it. I may as well kind of show you. It takes a little bit to load sometimes, again, when you're searching and we're running live here. So if you're a tech, you're going to just basically get into your current timesheet straight away. So you can see the days worked. We can filter down via day or days as well. This was Palmer Energy Conservation that requested these little filter buttons. Anyway, ultimately, you can search your sites and your customers here as well. Speed. So let's say I'm a tech. I showed up to site after getting my work order. Now it's time to do my service report. This is kind of the magic of it all, and ultimately this is the replacement of paper. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit so it's kind of like paper. And you can zoom in, you can zoom out. It's all about sorting out which one works best for you and how you like to use it. First and foremost, technicians in the field understand if they have to go back to site or whether work is complete or it's ready to invoice. Okay. On the main dashboard, I'm going to go back to the admin side. I haven't shown you this dashboard yet, but all I want you to look at is this ready to invoice button. So if you're in accounting and you're watching this and you're fearful of change and how this is going to affect you every day, this is the only button you really need to worry about. Sometimes requires payment. If you're using this to obviously track your accounts receivable, then yeah, these two buttons become very valuable. Most people who use the software in the Ant Colony now are only concerned with the ready to invoice ones and are tracking their AR in their accounting software. A little bonus add in there. But the other thing I'm going to draw your attention to is this priority service report. So it was Decal, a company with, 25 or 30 HVAC techs. They have an administrator in the office. I think it's Dana. Anyway, and when you have at least 30 service reports coming in every day, and that's just one per day, which ones are important? Do you need to read through every single one, or is there a way to highlight the action items? Priority service reports. Okay. So this ready to invoice priority service reports are two very key functions for an administrator as a whole. We'll give you a chance to take in the dashboard as well, and as I'm talking, you can kind of see the important things that are in here as well. Field quotes we'll get into later. So back to the replacement for paper. Ultimately, in speed, the tech just needs to go in and say, what he did. From a phone, speak to text does work here. So if you're an older tech or you have older techs and you're concerned about, them thumbing, text messaging in what they put, speak to text works. If you have an accent, say you're from the South, and your Google, this is all basically done through Google. It's not our software, but or our functionality in there, but it does work. And if it works for you on other stuff, it'll work up here. From there, ultimately, a tech just needs to put in their hours under the technician tab, and then ultimately hit review and submit. Right. So if you're doing this in the very basic purpose of the software, I'm going to go back to the tech view. I'm going to run through this really quickly. So start your service report. I'm complete. Blah 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 blah. I scroll down. I say I was here for 8 hours, and I hit review and submit. There's your paperwork done. From here, this is your review page, is edit button up here, and uses where you can say go through it with the customer perhaps, what you did, what you found, make sure they're happy with it. Customers can sign here as well, and that does get captured and passed along. These, I'll get to where a site page later, but these emails get pulled from the site, which could be your customers' emails, the property manager, bill to perhaps, and they will receive these emails if I hit submit. If it's say a sensitive description of service with further work required, you don't want the customer to get it yet, just hit remove. All this is part of the training for techs. I'll also draw your attention to here as well on the mark as priority. That priority service report button here, 14 and ready to invoice. This is where if you push that, it filters through that button. Okay, so from here, boom, I submit. All done. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump back and I'm going to run through this again, but with the more advanced version. So we'll go to Tech View. We're going to come back in here. We've done our work so far. I'm going to start my service report. I'm going to say, for the work, or work is complete, I'm going to finish it. Now, say you want to use this software a little bit more advanced, like for preventive maintenance or for asset tracking. Okay, let's go to the equipment tab and we add site equipment. Okay, so this is where we search up AHU1, right? This could be all the different equipment. Again, the more you type, the better it is. We've made it very fast for technicians to do this now. So green, equipment checked and running well. Yellow, equipment checked and we recommend. So you want to get this in front of your customer all the time. Upgrade to N4, replace the motor, replace belts more often, filters more often, etc. Red, urgent, equipment checked and something's broken. This is meant to grab the customer's attention. This is also being saved. The overall health button here, that changes with it, saves into there, and you can run quarterly reports or monthly reports through the software to give to your customers. I would say this is value add, and there is value towards it. I usually put like a $1,500 a year minimum value to doing that quarterly report. This is something that you can also waive to your customers in an act of good faith. Lesson here, part of ANT2 is some business best practices and strategies. What I would say here is that always establish a value of the time you're providing, because eventually people are going to start to just expect different things get done and expect that of you without it for free. Okay, so always establish your value. Anyway, from here we can also add pictures. So I'll go to my desktop. Oh no, I don't have it. There we go. And I'll add a couple pictures in here to this piece of equipment. So this is where you may want to get pictures of the dirty filter. You may want to get pictures of, honestly, it could be absolutely anything with that. Before, after, screenshots of the automation, proof we fixed it, etc. Okay. We can add several pieces of equipment overall. It doesn't really matter as long as we're tagging it green, yellow, red. And I'm going to show you what the service report looks like in the end. Right. I'm going to do the Young Gun class as well, 2018. Shout out to the boys. And the Control Trends Awards. And podcast add-on. From there, we can also add parts to it. This is a database that you're going to fill out. I can work with you, ultimately get it from your supplier, and put it in here. So what we're doing here, beyond just in the very simple form of it, you can just type all this into the summary of service provided if you want, or you can actually physically build it within here, and it comes out a little bit differently. So say you're an HVAC company out there, and you have, again, you're doing filter changes. I believe I have a shift click in here. No, not in this one. And if you've changed these belts, filters, again, you're building your report here. Ultimately, again, just like we did the first time, put your 8 hours in, hit review and submit. We're back at our review page, skim through. Now you can see we have a lot more information in here. I'm happy with all the information. I've changed these belts, filters. Customer signs it. Boom, submit. Mark it as priority. Submit. Done. Now I'm going to do this very quickly once more. I find as I talk about this as I go, I'm not showing you how fast and easy it is because I'm talking and explaining it. But if I jump through this and and add some pictures very quickly and add some site information, I can show you that this software really is not an added time for anybody. As a matter of fact, it should make it faster to do your daily work. So boom, review and submit. No. At least 1 hour should be entered for the work done. There we go. It's perfect. I showed this. So a safety, you can't submit a service report with 0 hours. It doesn't make sense to the customer. It doesn't make sense to the business as well. Review, sign it, review it, send it. Service report's done. Now let's see what they look like. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my email here. I'm going to go into my service reports tab, and this would be the ones that we had just submitted. 3 of them 1 minute apart. Shows you how fast it can be. What I'm going to say here, so this is the email that comes through, gives you all the basic information of it all, and then here is the PDF. So if we scroll through it, it's basically like that gray page, almost exactly the same. Reason for the call, here's your PO. If you need to bill it to the customer, they can see what PO they gave you, the description of work. We scroll down. I did put some pictures in here, but they didn't pop up this time. They were too big. There we go. So they show up progressively all the way through it. What I'll do is I'll go into this one as well. This was a better one that had more pictures. There we go. So same kind of thing. What was done to it. The technician worked. I'm not showing hours on here. Sometimes you can. There's different options. It's a select option where you can show hours on service reports or not. And there are different reasons for both. It's an enable-disable feature. So the pictures for it, for this AHU, this was BEM's idea. To sign up, they really needed the ability to show service reports with pictures. This is the parts I used, filters, belts, ultimate signature, and away we go. So that's basically the general function of it all, like the simple portion of this whole software. Generate your work orders, schedule your techs, do service reports. Now what? I'm gonna go to Ant Team because this was the site that I generated those work orders for, and this is introduction to a new page. I'm gonna zoom out a bit and give you a view. So you can see the site name, the project number. What that basically refers to is if this was a project that you did and you have separate numbers from project to service, here's your reference point. Original building would be the same. Sometimes in construction, it would be block 32, and then now it would be, say, the sumac. Access details could be a couple different things. This could be guidance when you show up at site, show up, talk to this person, etc. This could also be your passwords, so that you can log into your BAS, from the WAN IP. I've just put service tracker in here, but this could be the IP address, get you to your automation system, and here's the password for it. You can also put that information in notes, no problem, as well. And these are different notes for different reasons. These could be sales notes. This could be your contract itself, etc. What I'm going to do here is let you, and I'm sure you can for now, is just kind of look through these tabs, see what see what you can put information-wise into the software. The equipment's going to be your air handlers, your JACEs, your controllers, your boilers, your chillers, etc. And when you tag them, like we did on that last service report, they're going to show up into here. Okay, so what I can do here is view it. Again, with the control click, it's going to be right here, and I can view the different pieces of the equipment into here. So any service notes for it, any service, if there was any notes being like, bring this type of screwdriver, etc. Maybe it's an old unit. You can also see all of your service reports done here as well. Everything that any service report that's ever been tagged on. Belts, filters, if required, you can add those parts to it, and then you can even add attachments, which would be like a detailed wiring diagram for it, troubleshooting guide, etc. So you don't have to search it later. So this is kind of the real reason I do the shift click, is that I can show you this information, right, or investigate this information and then jump right back to the site page. Okay. Adding information into the site is very simple. So let's add a couple pieces of equipment while we're on to here. Like this is the data entry side of things. I'm gonna say chiller 1, say rooftop east. I'm gonna search up what type of equipment it is or the model number for it. Right. I'm just gonna pick any of these for now. Pick a boiler for it. Doesn't matter. There'll be model numbers in there. Enter your serial number for it. From here, you can also, pick belts if they're entered into here. Say it's got 2 belts of a certain size, add that belt. Certain filters or filter sizes. It takes 4. I'm just showing you the general side of it. This is also where you can add those attachments right off the bat. Boom. So data entry is very easy. We're in data entry mode, so we can put 1, 2, 3, 4 very fast. Ultimately, I can cancel these and get right back to the same page. Probably a very cool feature is on edit of a piece of equipment, you can clone. So say you have 4 of the same rooftop units or 100 of the same VAVs, or same thing with controllers, etc. I can clone it honestly as many times as I want. I wouldn't try to do it 1,000 because you're gonna have to delete them all, or you're gonna have to call us to delete them all. Be conservative. So if I hit clone here, boof it, it's going to recreate 5 of these. And if they're all the same troubleshooting guides, I can also keep all the attachments in there. More obviously on this, and requiring a little less detail and deep dive, we have all of our work orders in here. Every work order for this site ever. The customer portal will also allow your customers to see almost the same amount of information as this. I think they just get equipment, work orders, service reports, probably field quotes as well. I think right now is a good time to dive into field quotes. This is ultimately what makes us money. My experience would tell me that for sure the best HVAC techs out there in the world are those that keep themselves busy. I know my dad built hit this whole business on doing field quotes, showing up on site, say closing my eyes, listening for the sounds of what's going on in that building, and then putting together quotes to repair them. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to add a new one. Again, once I show you how to do a service report, everything gets very similar, which again helps the adoption rate. So we're going to pick the service relationship. Remember, the service relationship is the unique bind between customers and sites. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to keep it with Ant Team, and I'm going to pick testing this time. Poof. So while doing PM, and then also remember like the blah, 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 right? You can speak the text in as well at the same time. Okay. You can also add equipment in here if you want. It basically just tags it so that, again, just like the service report, it builds it. You can add parts. You don't need to add parts. Ultimately, what I want to show you is labor hours, 100 labor hours. We charge out $130 an hour. Boom. We give you the option here or not the option, but the view here to see how much your service, your field quote is going to be. Customers will not see this portion of the field quote. Ultimately, and I'm going to hit send in a second, you are only going to see the sell price. Okay, so I'm going to add it. Poof, gone. I get an email right away, or the customer would, or whoever would, gets the email, and this is what the field quote, looks like. Very, very simple. Once you approve a field quote, which I will do, I'll go to the back here. I don't have any that I can do here. Maybe if I edit it. Here, hang on. I'll jump back to the main dashboard. I'm going to go to field quotes. I don't think we have any 50. There we go. So this is the one we just did. This is a brand new feature. I really haven't played with it yet, but ability to filter through 0 to 14 days old, 15 to 30 days old, 30 to 160 days old. And then ultimately after 61 days, this state turns to expired. Just like this. So there's probably going to be a ton of them in this field button here. Again, this is a brand new function meant to help salespeople or your business grow. When we approve a field quote, boom, it becomes a work order. So right away, you're right in the mix of it. You can just grab it, schedule it, and again, we're right back where we were before, assigning Aaron into a task, and hitting add. So honestly, that's what I'm going to do here is now kind of leave the dashboard up for you. I'm going to take a little break in my recording. And yeah, the next thing we're going to jump into is Project Tracker. So nutshell, that is Service Tracker as a whole. As I look here, I find other options of different things to click around at. Honestly, this is kind of the point where you're going to want to jump on a demo with me and play with it. Like I use GoToMeeting, I can give you control of it, and you can really play with it as a whole. Also, a good note here: we don't do free trials. We will do free trials, but it hasn't worked, not even once. The reality is you're the listener here. You're too busy with real work to play. If you want this and need something in this like this in your business, like let's cannonball in, right? Just like LJ Barton did this morning. I closed that sale this morning. Like jump in, cannonball in. Like I'm gonna make sure this is successful with you and in your unique way of doing business. We can work on shaping it. I did the business school thing, and I became an expert in change management. This is what I'm here to do is help. In the trade, I never went to trade school. I stayed as a helper, and I'm happy doing that. Whether it's in the field, getting tools ready, sweeping the floor, etc., or helping your whole organization adopt a software. Like this is what I have fun doing. What I've done here while I've been talking is I've gone to the employee tab. So this lets me view, Aaron Gorka as a client, as an employee, and see every service report I've ever done, all the field quotes I've ever done, work orders, project tasks, and ultimately notes I've created. I'm looking at building this into like an HR tracker. It's not on the high priority list of developments to do. There's all sorts of different things. And as I even mentioned with the field quote side of things, we're building this all the time. I know to some people's dismay, I guess sometimes is, they don't want to invest in training necessarily, and it changes a lot. We send out weekly updates when we change things, and I'm always available via phone to help explain it. But with these field quotes, things change all the time. So yeah. Next step is going to be Project Tracker. Hello there, everybody. Aaron Gorka back. Now, typically, I usually cut these demos up into two. I do a Service Tracker one, then I do a Project Tracker one. The purpose is they're very different softwares, and honestly, in experience, the Project Tracker one typically overwhelms. It's extremely powerful and totally unique software on the market. There's nothing like it. What makes it special is the way we collect information from the field. The whole solution was provided around, answering the question or eliminating the need for the question of how far are you along this job? Because, you ask somebody that, and depending on what they're thinking about that day at that time, they may give you two very different answers. And 60% of the way through and 70 or 80% of the way through are very different as well. Not just for draws, but the things that happen on a project at different times. Okay, so there's a very high level intro to this from the project side of things. What we do is at the end of every day, based off the point mix, which is a system which has a controller, which has a set of IOs, right, which have points attached to them. At the end of every day, for 5 minutes, and every single day, your field staff check off the tasks they've created or completed. Okay, then timestamps it, and then what they do is hit input hours. They input their hours per time, and then ultimately they submit that, and it goes to two places. Number one, it goes to the timesheets. Just like when you do a service report, you put your hours and poof, timesheet's done. On the project side, after you check off all your tasks and put your hours and poof into your timesheets, the second part is those hours you put to there accumulate on that project. So you can see live, at least at the end of every day, the tasks that somebody completed and the hours associated with it. So let that resonate and imagine what you'll find from that. Number one, estimates. Was your estimated time the same as your actual time? Why? Could be understanding where that project is live. Now, the big difference between a control company and, say, mechanical plumbing firm, to do $10 million worth of work, a plumber is doing, say 15 projects, depending on the size of the company. Let's just say 15. For a control company that's not doing hospitals, to get to $10 million, dollars worth of work, you're going to be at like 150 to 200 projects at once. So how do you know what project's profitable and when? If you're sitting there in the audience and you can't answer that question right now and know exactly, honestly, and clearly, where every one of your projects are, then this is a great solution for you. So after a little break there, or hit pause now, go to the bathroom, take a break, because we're diving into Project Tracker and we're going to build a project live right now. I actually had done this once already and I forgot to hit record on the screen, so this is round 2. I hate when that happens. I have the audio, did not have the video. So here we are, back into it, jump into Project Tracker. Okay, this is going to be like your main overview page. You can see the latest notes that are in there going on in your jobs, and you can get to projects this way. Ultimately, what we're going to do is create a project. And I'm going to pick one of my favorite numbers, and I'm going to call it Cochrane WebEx demo. For simplicity, I'm going to put 100 hours. I'm going to ignore this is PM button. For now, if you're interested in that, we can talk about it in a web demo. Nutshelled, is it preventive maintenance? So Project Tracker can be used very conveniently and very powerfully for preventive maintenance as well. Leave it at that. From here, you can see you have 2 options for task templates. Okay, you either have the default or you actually can search and pick them. I don't think I have any of them in there right now on the demo site. But what this is all about is a construction project is different than a retrofit project in the simplest way. New construction versus retrofit. Different challenges, different tasks, different weights to different tasks. Okay. A hockey arena is very different than a condo, which is different than an office tower, different than a campus. A metering project is different than an integration project, which is different than a hazardous gas installation, etc. So what you can do is spend some time, when we can do that together during project setup and setup, is we create different tasks for different types of projects, and they're selected here. Ultimately, let's just create a project and get started. Okay. The very first place that I like to start on these demos is the project overview. The reason for this is you can see that there's no systems in here right now. Be very aware that there's only 2 different tasks here as well. We're at 0%. There's only 12 tasks total for the project, and the reason for that are these are project level tasks, and we'll talk about that when we get into task setup. Very first, and the first thing, you create a project or your administrators create a project, jump into key information. I'm going to jump through this fairly quickly. 3 options: general, key milestones, and contacts. General is a very high level overview of the whole project. It's just literally going to give you the baseline of what you're working with. Key milestones is kind of an integration of Outlook, where you can set goals for the job and it will send out Outlook appointments for you to save. And contacts are both internal, like assigned work, and the different contractors you may work with: mechanical, electrical, end user, engineer. So again, these key information are things like if you need to find something out about the job, here's where you go. So here's a couple good examples here. We'll go $20,000 in material costs. Like, you might know your PO value quickly and your material value. That can give you a baseline very quickly about what's going on. Okay. You may want to have future goals. So service contracts, right? Earn a service contract out of it, do a good job, etc. Get more work with the region, etc. Whatever it may be with them, right? Perform well so the engineer specs you on other jobs. Perform well so the mechanical, takes your work no matter what next week, next time, etc. Key deliverables, I mean, this could be like 2 makeup errors. You can see all this on the project overview too. So it's, basically what you want to deliver as a whole, and you can copy and paste that from your quote perhaps. Key challenges are going to be things like in a retrofit or working after hours, clean up, right? Don't leave somebody's desk messy so when they come in the morning they complain. Things like that. So let me save. Get back to key information, go to key milestones. I did explain what these were, but let's just say systems power up. Because as soon as systems are powered up, then you can start going and downloading your controllers. Very important portion of it. Blah, 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 blah. Pick your milestone date. Right? Remember, this is going to go to Outlook for you. You can notify other people or yourself as well. Ultimately, these are just users. You will have to forward to external contractors later. We do not email directly to clients ever out of the software. Service reports the exception, but in Project Tracker, never. There's too much information where mistakes can be made, and we don't want to be liable of messing something up. So when I hit save, this is going to notify everybody in the project about this Outlook appointment. You can read that, and you'll get used to seeing it as you join the software. Okay. So right away, we can look in the bottom right corner. You can see that we have our key milestone here, all the information about it. So if you're doing a kickoff meeting, for example, do this live. Like, don't make meeting minutes. Well, you may want to make meeting minutes ultimately, but just do this while you're talking, or somebody do this while you're collaborating. Ultimately, you open it up. Tells you what the milestone was, gives sets a reminder for 2 weeks or whatever you may want. Hit save. You're done. Okay. Key milestones. Contacts. Again, this is very, very basic. You can assign your different technicians from here, your electricians in here. You can also put the general information from the different contractors and people you're working with on the site external to the company. I believe that end user and customer will auto-populate into RFIs for you later. We have a contract management section that does all your requests for information and change orders, administrates them quite well, and tracks them as well. Okay. From here, I want to go to project setup because it's the next portion of it. As you can see, we have no systems in here. Again, let's do the architecture. System, like a boiler, makeup air, has a controller, which has IOs, and those IOs have points and names attached to them. So we're gonna do something. I'm gonna just fast track this from the last one, and I'm gonna go with a VAV. I'm gonna pick a controller. I'm gonna go CO1. I'll search a VAV here, and I'll pick a either Distech or a Honeywell VAV controller. Okay. I'm doing a little bit of risk here. I'm not sure these IOs are perfect. Again, this is a demo site, not a live one. Maybe the right ones. Perfect. Great. So this VAV controller, now what we're going to do, we've added our system, we have our controller, all the IOs are already associated with it. So let's say room temp, or just to keep it simple, go supply air temp. Okay. These point names can be uploaded and kept standard. Okay, so what that means is everybody in your business is going to use the same point names for programming, for everything like that. So you're all on the same page, and they don't even need to think about it. These are autocompletes. So outdoor air temp, why do they go outdoor air, relative humidity or temperature? Boom. This allows us to put like room 201. Outdoor air temp could be north corner of building. Right? It's just basically the point label is a blank field, lets you put anything you want in there. Ultimately, the parts description is searchable, and it has pretty much every type of part that you can imagine in it. The more you type, the less you get. And this will also jump up into our material tracker. So the more you put into here, it'll actually show up in material tracker. What that does, it basically lets you request, like, once you put a part in, it's considered selected. then anybody using the software can say get it, which will email out a request for somebody in the office to actually order that part. Once it's been ordered, they change the status to ordered, puts an expected delivery date, received, on site, warranty or NFG, or back in stock, for example. So yeah, all sorts of nifty stuff. So let's just speed this up a little bit and say VAV and say there's 100 on the job. You can note here that I can clone this system as many times as I want. I can also add more controllers to it if it's a boiler, a big makeup air, etc., a chiller. For ease, we're just going to clone this 10 times. Okay. So to build out your point mix, essentially now, I'll go view all systems. Boom. You start to build it all out, and they're all the same with all the same, essentially the same information. Okay. So now that we have a project set up, and it's very basic, something I forgot to note here is that we can import your point mixes. They have to be done in our format. Imports are dumb, FYI. Like it's really tricky and really hard to build a smart import. It just takes columns, fields, matches them, and puts them together. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that you can build your point mixes and your projects in here fairly quickly. So huge difference on this screen now. Okay, you can see that we also have electrical, commissioning, BS, design, and administration in here now. We built out systems. They're all listed in here. You can drill down to exactly where each of those are, like right to the point for that matter, if it's been done. And you can get into checking off these tasks from these hyperlinks as well. That's probably where I'm going to go next. No, first I'm going to go into task setup from these. So each electrical, commissioning, BS, design, admin all have tasks within them. So again, using my control click to open up a new tab, I jump into task setup. Now, I'm going to explain something very high level here. The overall project hours, we input those when we started at 100. What I learned more or less as a standard BS project, 40% of the overall job is going to be electrical, 20% is going to be BS or programming, 20% commissioning, 20% design. Okay, we have administration here, but we don't put any weight to that internally. It's just FYIs and a list of things to not. What this is basically is when I was managing projects, if I followed these steps and made sure I checked these off, essentially I've done almost all I can from a checklist perspective to make sure that job's perfect. The whole purpose of all of these tasks as a whole is that they remind people, your field people, anybody in your organization, of things that need to be done in order to accomplish the whole job. Like a perfect example is under programming, the first step is to review the design documentation. Right? If you have separate departments, say design, programming, commissioning, etc., in your organization, or want to get there, it's really important that people do say that they reviewed the overall design. If they haven't read the spec or the sequence or understand what they're supposed to be doing from the control drawings perspective, you're in big trouble. That job is going to go south, right? Unless you have some really wicked wizards out there. But anyway, this software is not built for the wizards. It's built for the people that need to be reminded, and also for the organizations looking to grow and bring different people into the organization. These tasks essentially provide a roadmap of what you expect as a company from your team. It can be a reminder for people. Oh shoot! Oh yeah, I forgot to set up the histories, schedules, or trending. Right? Boom! It's there for you. It's meant to be if there's a job handoff and figure out where that job is right away. Right? This could save days. Never mind like the minutes and hours we're talking. If you know where it is and what happened in that project and where it was, and you have to hand off for any reason, it doesn't really matter why you're handing it off, you're saving time. Now, this is where I typically can lose people from typically an information overload perspective. Within the electrical task grouping, these are the tasks that have to be completed from an electrical perspective. More or less, you can customize this however you want. We set it up together. Within here, I'm going to click Edit. we have project level tasks, we have system level tasks, IO controller, and IO itself. So based on the way this is set up, you rough in a system, you rough in a boiler, you rough in the conduit for a chiller, you rough it in for makeup air. You pull wire to controllers, right? Because those may have several controllers, and if you want to know exactly where that job is, you need to rough it into each wire, pull the wire to it. Now, you install devices like valves or thermostats or relays or current sensors, etc. at IO levels. So yes, I've installed this device. Yes, I've installed this device, etc. Ultimately, you can really mess around. And part of that, when we started this project, created this project, we talked about your standard task groups and whatnot. This is where you can change the weights. Like say a hockey arena, these weights of the wire pulling in the system's conduit roughing are going to be way bigger. Or a parking garage where you're pulling a lot of wire, for example. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump back into go back into my other tab of project overview. These groups here, if I click on this hyperlink, it takes me to all the electrical, all the commissioning, all the BS, all the tasks for the project. Okay. If I use this grouping, now, albeit I haven't checked any tasks, so these two results are going to be the same, but as soon as I start checking off tasks, or I'm at like, say, 95%, it can be really hard to find, like to check off the tasks that are completed. This is what's left. So in theory, every day, your field techs can go out to site and without even thinking, right? Nobody likes to think that hard, at least until it's about what they have to do. At the end of every day, or start of every day, you can come in here and click on what needs to be done, like what left needs to be done. So let's say, okay, I reviewed all the documentation of all these jobs. I shift click, boom, time stamped, by who. Okay, so this is the magic page where people check off what they've completed every day, which allows them also to input their hours. Right? So if you forget it for a few days, you can backdate it, but ultimately this is what you want to do every day before you leave site, or for sure when you get home. But every single day you do this, and it takes 5 minutes. Right? You do it every week, it takes 20 minutes or more, right? Because you're trying to remember back. Every day you get this done. It gets it out of your head as a tech. It gets it out of your head of where you were onto software. So you don't need to think about it anymore. Here you get a handoff, you can walk on and see exactly what was done by who and when. From here you input your hours. Right, it takes into here, these are left over from another job I had worked on, we had done the systems roughing earlier, so I'm going to say it's 4 hours here, 3 hours here, 2 hours, and I hit submit my hours. So this takes me to the spot now where I can input everything I've completed so far. I can transfer this to 8 hours, and then this portion here is what gets exported. These logged hours is how we pull it over from there. And if I click on logged hours, it's going to take me back to the same page to see what I've done that day. So I'm going to come back to the overview here, and I'm going to go to commissioning because that's what I want to do here. And I'm just going to give it a mark all. That's complete. Okay. Timestamp it all. I can create notes here as well that can be forwarded back to people for different reasons. There's all sorts of different reasons why you want to create notes. And again, I would go through these things in a web demo. I'm just trying to move kind of fast here, guys. I'm at about 21 minutes, and the last one I did that I had to redo was about 34, and it wouldn't have fit anyway. So this is better. Okay. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back to the project overview after completing a bunch of tasks. And boom, you can see where we're at here. Okay, shows you how many hours were put towards things. I didn't submit my hours on a couple of them. That's why I didn't go through. But yeah, there you go. You have everything you need to be in front of right now at a quick glance, and you can see which ones for which sections and break it down further if you want to. Okay, I'm going to show you probably material tracker now. Okay, so I'm going to go to material summary. This is going to show you everything in the project. Okay, that we put these in and we copied and pasted them. From here, I'm going to go to statuses. So this is where we can see that I've selected all these parts. Okay. Now, if I want to select get it, so I'm a project manager and I want my office people to order it, I check it in, and maybe I want to put a note as ASAP or expedite, so it's clear. Okay. Ultimately, we hit save. Boom. So it changes there, and we can set it for the next one, ordered, etc. Received on site, NFG. Everybody, I think, knows what that means. The beautiful thing about creating your own software is you can put whatever you want in there. This was something I wanted to put in there. I thought it was hilarious when I learned what that meant as a kid. It was like, okay, I get that. So, got to carry some things forward. I guess I can show you the file management. I mean, the rest of this is meant to explore and is all fairly self-explanatory. The file we can change folder structures and templates and stuff, but nutshell, if I create it, this is now can be a spot where you host all of your up-to-date drawings, the mechanicals, the as-built, your control drawings. You can put your Tritium files, your backups, anything you want basically into here. This is your file management structure and system. So this makes it I would argue, much easier to get to different documentation from the field. We had a web portal, VPN in, and it's just slow. It sucks, sort of. Google Drive can work too, or Dropbox, but this is ultimately for internal stuff. This is where you want it, and you can find all the old as-builts later too, because this is saved forever. Probably one of the cooler parts of all this is the RFIs and change orders. A very important part of a job, and you need to track it. So let's say a simple one: relocate, T-stat, the customer's, whatever, call it Aaron, intention to, Aaron from Aaron, customer address 5150 Fairview, blah, 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 administration. Ultimately, after you've quoted it, and I'm happy to provide an Excel sheet that definitely works to make you money from a quoting perspective. If you have one, just stick with the way you're using it. Ultimately, if it's negative, what is it negative in front of it? If it's a credit, otherwise, put your $20,000 thermostat relocation. Rare, but probably possible. So here, in the reference info, you want to, SIM 104, whatever it may be. You want to reference other information or the specification, etc. And this is where you can put the breakdown in. So whatever 20 BAS hours at, say, 85 per hour equals, if you need to break it down, break it down. Ultimately, you issue it. Again, we never send this directly to a client in case you made a mistake, you want to edit it, etc. But this is going to email me so that I can look at it and forward it along after I approve it, essentially. So I think it comes into this folder. There we go. So change order comes out like this. This was a format I designed or that I liked when I was doing project management. You get the project number, name, what the job is, etc. From here, you also get the PDF version of it. And I'll show you what that looks like. I don't love editing, like as Ant Technologies, we don't love editing PDFs. So what we've done is in the next publish, we've actually made this option in Excel that you could save your own as a PDF. It just gives you some more room to change, to put longer wording and stuff like that. But ultimately, this is going to be what it looks like for you. Fairly professional. It built off of Jonas. Our team used Jonas. I'm very familiar with it. I did some custom forms in there, and ultimately this is one I liked, so this is one we got. That brings me to about 26 minutes. Probably the most important part of all this. Like, we've time-stamped everything. We've put all of our energy into tracking the project. Wouldn't it be great to send a commissioning engineer like something really good? You can even go all the way back to when you roughed it in, for that matter, right? Very least commissioning, hit detailed commissioning, and there are other options in there. And here you go. This is your point mix, your system, your hours, etc., etc., etc. The system you worked on, the hours for it, the points for it, and then the tasks that have been completed. Timestamped by her, by who, and proof. Okay, so engineers would kill for this, right? They're gonna be, any engineers listen to this, like, get your contractors using this, and you'll get good detail out of it. The other portions here too is I've really wanted to partner with the manufacturers, the control manufacturers of the world, of the industry. They do know about it. They've seen us at trade shows and whatnot. For what reason or another, they haven't, probably just priorities and whatnot, they haven't gotten us in there to start putting in tasks that they know they need for their own systems to make sure it runs ideally perfectly. You follow all these steps to install our controllers and to commission our controllers, poof, you're done. Right? If I capture that in here, then every single contractor using this and every tech for every contractor that's using it is going to be set up for success. Ultimately, that's what this whole software is about. Service hand project is setting people up for success, tracking things so it's easier to find, saving minutes, saving days. Ultimately, all these little things add to higher morale and eliminate frustration. I think I'm going to leave this service track or project tracker at this portion of it. If you're more interested in more, I think it's time. We have to do a web demo with a couple of your teammates. Typically, the way these go is it's like a 3-step minimum kind of process. We do like an intro demo. This could be part of that intro demo. Then we do like a champion demo. So you are intrigued. You'll get your key people in the room. Usually it's a service manager, project manager, or project managers, accounting person, owner, or manager, depending on the size of your organization. And we teach you and you approve it. From there, we pick a champion team. We bring a couple field techs in. What they do then is I work with them to train them how to use this comfortably. We run a couple tests. We demo it up a bit. We have champions in the room. Then we bring all the field people in, for 4 hours or so like that. And we train them. I've had not been unsuccessful training. Every single time we've gotten everybody on board. We haven't lost a contractor yet either. In review, this software costs $490 per user per year. There's a few one-time setup or training fees. Those go through Distribution, and you can host it at Cochrane Supply. They have a wicked training center. I've done the biggest training I've ever done there. Luckily, I had 2 champions in there to help me keep 35 or 25 HVAC mechanics busy, or focused. Sorry, keeping them busy is not the problem. Keeping them focused is the problem in a classroom setting. So anyway, yeah, I consider this the end of it all, and I'd like to introduce or invite you all to join the ant colony. Thank you, Cochrane Supply, for forcing me to do this. Nicole Rossu for being patient with me for 6 months while I finally find the time on a quiet Friday in the office. Happy Friday, everybody. Shout out to Scott and Nicole and Kim, everybody at Cochrane, Don. Thank you all so much for being a part of Ant Technology's growth and part of early adoption and bringing some of your contractors on. I hope this brings more. So thank you from Ant Technologies. You're invited to the Ant Colony. And woohoo! Happy Friday, everyone.